Well, hello and welcome back to Perth South Model Railway, and apologies for the long delay since the last video. I'm afraid summer activities rather got in the way this year, so I haven't achieved as much as I would have liked over the summer. This video is just a short update to let you see what has been done and to let you know that I'm still here, plugging slowly away. Hopefully the pace will quicken a little now that the darker evenings are approaching. Now, I mentioned in a previous video that I planned to ballast the remainder of the station area, and I've now completed that. I've used a variety of mixes of Woodland Scenics colours, mostly the ash ballast in the station area, though in truth it's a little too coarse to be ash. South of the station I've used various mixes of grey, and it's all been toned down a little with a light spray of sleeper grime. I've used building sand coloured with weathering powder for the cesses and wideways between the tracks in the station area and between platforms 3 and 4, and I think it's turned out quite well. I painted on some diluted PVA and then sprinkle on the sand just enough to soak up the watery PVA and then hoover up the excess once dry. Areas around the switchblades on points are always covered in grease and muck, and I've sprayed the switch areas black or dark grey to simulate this. Similarly, areas at signals and at the ends of platforms have also been given a spray to suggest the oil and muck left behind by locos, of which probably the early diesels were probably the worst offenders. More dummy electro-pneumatic point motors have been added to the points that are newly ballasted. I haven't done anything in the goods yard yet, as I quite often use this area for cutting or working in materials, and also use it to lean on to reach the far back of the board. So I'll wait until the scenery is complete covering the gap that's still there at the back of the boards. Once that's complete, then I'll tackle the ballasting and the ground cover in the goods yard. I've also completed the signalling around the station with additional signals in the approach from the south and also in the north slow lines. Where possible, I've replicated the signal numbers as used in the prototype. I've also included a number of ground position light shunt signals here. Now, I haven't installed the number of GPL signals that there are in real life. There are just too many to be able to do that, but I have installed enough to cover all the main shunt moves that you would wish to take place. The signals I've used here are the Train Tech versions. They're easy to install and wire up. Now, a few weeks ago, Charlie Bishop had an interesting signalling issue on his Chadwick Model Railway channel, and it was about how to signal moves coming out of a yard and into a head shunt. And he opted to use a yellow and white ground position light signal, and that's quite correct. But there are other ways of achieving this. An interesting feature at Perth was the use of two ground position lights, one on top of the other, where there are two alternative routes. Now, generally at Perth, where there are three alternative routes, then the signal would be provided with a miniature theta route indicator. But if there's only two, then the policy was to have two of these signals, one on top of the other. So let's have a look at the 1962 Perth signalling diagram to see what the story is about this signal. Now, the signal we're interested in is P67, and you can see the two signals mounted one on top of the other. And if we turn to the page which deals with the routing for these signals, so for P67 signal, it shows the top signal is for a route towards P68, which is another signal out in the main line. The bottom signal it shows as a long siding, which in my case would lead along into the remainder of the goods yard. Interestingly, this P67 signal is still there. with its two signals, one on top of the other. It's quite difficult to photograph because there isn't any public access near it. But it's still there, although not used because these particular sidings are all out of use and have been for many years. So in model form, if we set a route from the sidings out onto the main line, then the upper signal will change to two white lights. When the route's cancelled, both signals show a red and a white. And if the route is set through into the goods yard area, then the lower signal changes to two diagonal white lights. And then back to a red and a white once that route has been cancelled. Once again, for my version of P67, I've taken two of the TrainTech GPL signals and just mounted them, one on top and slightly behind the other. The signalling work here is taking me a lot longer than I thought it would. It's been quite finicky. I've lost a few LEDs as I've built the signals, and working under the board in this area because of the complexity of the wiring, point motors, etc. is really difficult. And I'll just show you a quick glance under the board in this area. I'm releasing now the main electronics board for this part of the upper level. And the bottom is one of the DAC20 units which operates the points. Top right is a BDL168 for block detection, and the top left is the SE8C unit which controls points and signals, and all these coloured wires you see coming from the unit go to the various signals. But looking up, we have a massive wiring at the different levels of the layout, and point motors, wires for block detection, and all the fine signal wires that come down from the upper board I terminate in these terminal strips so that you can then connect in the connection to the decoder. I'll do a more detailed explanation of wiring up the signals in a future video, but the wires from the terminal strips then pass into this device here, which contains resistors and actually powers two signals. This is one of the Digitrax signal mass bases, and it in turn plugs into the 10 wire flat strip which goes back to the decoder. Well, other things that are new to the layout, well, you may have seen in previous videos my Alexander's Midland low decker bus, which I've got to thank my friend and near neighbour Alan for, and he's nicely decorated the front of it with a suitable Perth destination. In the vehicle front, I've also got a Scamel rail freight vehicle door to door, suitable for a kind of 1960s layout. And at the recent Perth show, I finally managed to get myself a Perth station totem to hang above the layout. So far as future plans are concerned, well, first of all, you may wonder why I finished the ballasting at this point, and the reason is that I've got more uncouplers to install under the slow lines here, and also in the goods yard a couple of points in the entrance to the goods yard, and also in the freight reception departure lines. So I really want to do that before I start ballasting this area. Further round, there's one more gantry signal to install in this area in the down and up main, which actually spans the exit from the Dundee loop lines as well. That's quite a prominent signal to the south of Perth, so I'm going to build that. More uncouplers to be installed in the freight lines here, and then additional signals in the depot side of the layout, of course, which shouldn't be as difficult as the station side. The signalling's generally slightly less complex. And then the rest of this area will all be ballasted as well. So I'm afraid it's going to be some time before I get on to more of the scenic work, particularly closing off the gap behind the lines to the south of the station. I still hope to do something about the other end of the bridge and how it matches into the back scene. I spent some time building St Leonard's Bridge a couple of years ago, and there is another bridge to be built further to the south, just before we get to the depot, and that's the Edinburgh Road Bridge, and that will cross over an angle in this area here, and it will help disguise this area at the back, which will eventually be covered over. Another thing to be completed on the electronics side while I've got these boards lifted in this area for the uncouplers is to install my spare LED strip lights underneath in the hidden sidings so that I can actually see what's going on in there. And to help with that observation, I've bought a couple of mini CCTV cameras which I'm going to install either end of the hidden sidings. The hidden sidings are generally fairly reliable. The automatic operation from Train Controller ensures we don't crash trains down there, but if occasionally something does get stuck or uncoupled, then it's very handy to be able to look along easily and see what's there, and so the CCTV will be a big help in that. So with the remaining electronics, uncouplers, signalling, the lighting for the area under the boards and the CCTV cameras, and plus all the ballasting that has to be done in this area, I think it's going to be well into next year before we tackle any of the major scenic items like the Edinburgh Road Bridge, like the Perth Friarton loco shed building, which I'm looking forward to tackling in this area. So thanks for watching and listening. I'm sorry about the slightly nasal tones of the commentary. I do have a bit of a cold. As usual, I'll finish with a bit of a running session, and I will produce some more videos to keep you up to date with progress. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.